studios of Adesina FM. Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of the Roundtable. My name is Tomola Obamuyi. This week we'll be talking about food inflation. As it is at the moment, food inflation stands at 22.9%, which happens to be the highest in 15 years. Some food items are gradually becoming the preserve of the rich in Nigeria. Many families and households will tell you that they have not eaten yam in months. That's one of the food items which prices have gone up. Then there's also rice. There's fish as well. There's corn. There's vegetable oil, palm oil, corn, gari now sells at around 600 naira. There's beans. I've mentioned rice. Then there's cocoyam as well. It is so bad now that most families are now able to get by. Most families are not thinking about nutrition. They're not thinking about getting the required nutrients from food. They're just eating to just get by on a daily basis. Cooking gas is also something which price is also gradually slipping out of the reach of so many people in Nigeria. Many now resort to using charcoal to do their cooking. For those who make a little more than others, it appears that they are also slipping into that same bracket, as many of such people now have to spend up to between 70 and 80% of their salary on getting food items alone. Unemployment is also not helping at all. It currently stands at around 33.3%. That is, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, that is 1 in 3 persons in Nigeria. That means 1 in 3 persons in Nigeria are currently unemployed. Well, the Nigeria currency is also not helping matters. The naira continues to weaken every day. The National Bureau of Statistics reports that over 50% of households in Nigeria records 50% reduction in their consumption between July and December last year. And I'm sure we're in the second quarter of 2021. If we are to get the correct statistics for this second quarter of 2021, I'm sure by now it will definitely be worse. So this afternoon we'll be looking at food inflation, the causes, and how we can get out of the woods. Like I said, my name is Tomola Obamuyi. Let me quickly introduce my guest on the roundtable this afternoon. I have with me in the studio Professor Tomola Obamuyi. He is the director of FUTA Advancement Center. You're welcome on the program,
Thank
Professor.
you.
Also from FUTA, the HOD of Economics Department, Dr. Adesina Abayomi. You're welcome on the program, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
I also have public analyst and entrepreneur Zadok Akintoye. You're welcome on the program.
It's a pleasure being here with you.
Let me start from Professor Obamuyi. Just as I described in my introduction, food items like rice, like gari, like beans, semovita, the prices are so high, and the prices continue to go on a daily basis. It's so bad that if you buy yam today, you could go back in the next 3 hours and they will tell you the price has changed. What is responsible for this continuous increase in prices of food items in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. In Nigeria, apart from the economic theories, we have our peculiarities, and the prices keep on increasing due to a lot of factors. First, you agree with me that we have natural factors and human factors.
Yes.
The human factors are those caused by us, all of us together, whether you say government or the people around. But let me quickly say that we have a situation where you cannot control the rain. And talking about human factor now, you have the clashes, the farmer herders clashes, which has made many of our farmers to run away from
to abandon their farms.
So farmers cannot guarantee their safety, and because of that, you now have a situation where food production is in shortage when compared to the demand for it. So we have a situation where there's disequilibrium, demand higher than the supply, and in economic times you expect that the prices
will go
up. So until we have a situation where we are able to have more food to be produced, and where we have to have a
we'll get to the solution.
Okay.
We'll get to let me turn to Dr. Abayomi. If you were to put your finger on any causes of the present situation that we are in, what would those be?
Thank you, sir. Food inflation in Nigeria today is caused by a combustible mix of factors.
Okay.
First, just like Prof said, insecurity is pervasive now. For instance, Benue State is said to be the food basket
of the nation. It's like a theater of war now.
Benue State produces 1.3 million metric tons of rice and over 3.5 million metric tons of cassava. And that's the epicenter of violence.
Farmers and other clashes.
So what are we talking about? So it must bounce back. That's one. The COVID-19 pandemic also has its own causes, because the lockdowns, curfews, and all the rest imposed on us actually exerted some shocks on the supply of some inputs. Farmers could not go to the farm at that time, and it has some autocorrelative effect. For instance, if farmers could not produce 3-4 months ago, you can't expect to get something now. So those are the things. It's not something that's.
And some people also lost their jobs during the lockdown.
Lost their jobs. There's gestation period in farming and all that. Then we have the natural disaster. For instance, in 2020 alone, over 129,000 people were affected by flooding.
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria, yes. And more than 320 local governments out of
774.
Farmlands were washed away. It's part of the effect we are seeing today. Then increase in the price of petroleum products is part of it.
Yes.
Because if you harvest your farm produce,
you transport
them.
Yes.
So then we have policy inconsistency too on the part of the government.
I think Prof and I were talking about that before we came into the studio.
Yes. For instance, last year, the federal government imposed import restriction on maize and fertilizers, and that to some extent led to increase.
And even rice, there was the coastal border.
The rice one was even it was a challenge that was well managed, because to some extent
was it well managed because it drove up the price of rice.
Yeah, the reason why I know that's the first thing that should happen. Because immediately you block that supply, price must go up. But later, because the reason why I said it was well managed was that we were even lucky we had that, because shortly after the federal government imposed a ban on rice, then we had the COVID-19 lockdown. Where would Nigeria have gotten its rice? I was surprised that Nigeria could even survive still getting rice. Because if there had not been COVID-19 challenge then, by now Nigeria would start exporting rice. That's what I feel. So I think it was. Then we have high input costs, because, for instance, fertilizer. One of the ingredients used in production of fertilizer comes from the byproduct of oil. That's sulfur. So if the price of oil goes up, price of sulfur will go up, and it's affecting us. Then, because of the inflation itself, general inflation, labor input, which
currently over 18%.
Yes. So, and Nigeria is known for the use of a high percentage of labor in agricultural production. So people, because you are the labor, the person you are employing to work on your farm will pay rent, he will transport himself and all that. So that has gone up, and it's also affecting it. Then, a few factors have also exacerbated the inflation. They are not the real causes, but they have exacerbated it.
Okay.
For instance, you have the panic buying, hoarding. Because people know that prices are going up, they see mop up.
I know people did that with palm oil. they just felt the price will go up. They decided to buy and keep.
And now,
some people said they will buy and keep and then sell later at a higher price.
And another factor is poor food reserve management in this country.
Yeah.
For instance, Nigeria has strategic grain reserve. It's not only grains that we consume. That's one. Even the grain reserve we're talking about is not well managed. For instance, the grain reserve we have has a capacity of 1.3 million metric tons. But most times we have just 30,000 grain reserve. And where would that take us to? So we need to be strategic about our food management generally, from production to supply and all that.
Okay, let me turn to Zadok. Some other factors that I think Prof and Doctor did not mention. Though Prof did say it did talk about natural factors. Desert encroachment is one of those. It's happening in the north, and also the Lake Chad is also drying up on a yearly basis. Now, some of these factors. Maybe the natural factors may be out of our control, but when we talk about insecurity, how can government get its act right in this regard, making farmers feel safe? In the north, most of the farmers have gone to they have migrated to the state capitals to sell. You'll be shocked. Some of the things they sell, some of them are into selling, sweet selling, because they do not feel safe on their farms. How can government get its act right, security-wise, and make people return to the farm?
I think it's beyond government to do this. What we see today is a product of events that we had not controlled prior to this time, or that we had not planned to either live with or mitigate. For instance, the shrinking of the Lake Chad, which has affected not just Nigeria, but also affects Chad and Cameroon, because it's a basin that supplies water to virtually those three countries, and even in Niger too, has affected farming generally within that region. You find farmers which is a natural response in nature, farmers will begin to move to where they can farm. And some of the best places for them to farm will be down towards the lower part of the Niger, which is well supplied with water.
Others too will continue to look for,
and that causes a lot of friction between the herders and the farmers. Don't forget, we have the desertification of the northern part of the country, and it's a major economic ecological challenge to them. We have not been able, and we cannot, I don't think we can mitigate nature totally. We can only learn to live with it. So this is causing strain on a country with a population, estimated population of about 200 million people. You are talking about huge numbers of people that are directly or indirectly affected. And so people have to migrate. That is causing friction between farmers and herders, between settlers and aborigines within any region. So I think that one of the things government needs to do is, because it is government, the citizens must find a sense of trust or belief that government will be fair at all times in dealing with issues that may arise. For instance, the mismanagement of the elder farmer crisis, the mismanagement of communication, information on that issue has also helped to escalate the matter to the point where even those that are not directly affected in the south region are feeling as if a particular clan or tribal people are a threat to their existence, even when they have not yet been affected. So I think that government's efforts must be geared towards proper information and proactive action. We must understand that no single sector, neither the animal production sector or the crop production sector of the agribusiness, is enough to survive on its own. It's a symbiosis. Do you know that the crisis between herders and farmers could be dealt with, for instance, where you have desertification and reduction in nutrients in the soil? If you graze cattle in a particular place, those cattle are bound to drop manure. Over time, manure actually helps in the nourishment of the land. So there could be systems where you bring your cattle to graze a particular place where I'm not going to be farming, or we are not going to be farming for this year. That drops enough nutrients there. Then next year, you know that you are not supposed to graze there. So it will now be the responsibility of government to communicate this education to the herders and to the farmers, and then see if we can have a way of working together so that we can all produce, or at least to some extent everybody can live. So I think government has failed largely in information management on the crisis, in taking proactive actions about the crisis, and in being able to forethink what will happen. Because oftentimes when you are able to do your you can do your mapping, your investigation, and say that predictably this is what might happen in the future, and then you go to mitigate it before actions are taken. The huge number of cattle, for instance, moving to the south.
Into Nigeria.
Into
Nigeria.
From other countries. Even from Mali.
It's not something that it didn't start today.
It's not. It didn't start today. Don't forget.
And we all knew it was going to happen.
If you look at the map of Africa, you will find that the lush place is from about where the Niger is downwards. And so everybody, because we are one Nigeria, everybody has a right of movement within Nigeria. People are bound to go from places where they are challenged with the insecurity in the northwest, the desertification of that region, the fact that generally life has become a lot more tougher for people within that region. People will move to places where they've seen some level of luxury or access. The bulk of food made in Nigeria or produced in Nigeria is eaten in the lower belt of the Niger. Lagos, for instance, I was reading statistics on Lagos, and I saw that Lagos kills as much as 180,000 cattle on a 30-day cycle. That's a huge number. So, and you don't find that being killed either in Sokoto or in Mali. So, where the business is in the south, where people have to consume this. So, people are bound to bring them. So, government must create a system where those that are engaging in the trade of cattle must understand that their cattle business is an entirely business. It's not a culture. It's a business, a fund-making business. And so when they come into the south, the people in the south may not necessarily be against them rearing cattle, but let us have a symbiosis. When you bring your cattle to my area, you can graze in my area because it also helps to drop nourishment. Don't forget that apart from dropping nourishment, you're also transmitting, you're bringing pests.
Yes.
They bring a lot of pests to them.
Yes.
You know, so we must, but if the cattle herder and the pastoral farmer do not have this education, which is to be provided by federal government, how do they understand this?
Now, what you've described, okay, you want to say something?
Yes, it's a good idea, but to make it realistic, that is the problem. Yeah, he talked about education, but I'm not too sure that understanding can be there. After all, we have this nomadic
education. Yes.
So
Jonathan did a lot in that regard. He built schools.
Yes.
No, a bit of explanation. I'm not talking about nomadic education.
The issue has gone beyond the movement of cattle to bandits or banditry and kidnapping. So to me, movement of cattle is just one aspect or hidden aspect of the strategy that people are now using, or you mentioned about unemployment and inflation. You see, these are some of the outcome of where you have serious unemployment,
a largely unemployed population.
Now remember, in economics, the two of them are not supposed to go together because you're supposed to have a trade-off. When inflation is increasing, unemployment should be going down. But in Nigeria, we have a situation where inflation is going up.
Unemployment is going up as well.
So this contradicts the Philip curve, and because of that, you cannot have growth. You cannot have growth, and because you cannot have growth, then everybody has to bear the burden. So that's the way of it. So the understanding will be very, very hard to get between the.
My question to you, just a moment. He described this. From what he said, it is as though there's nothing we can do with the movement of, migration of people down south, the movement of cattle and all of that. But then, what my question to you was that what can government do to ensure that even if they continue to move, to make farmers feel safe on their farm?
That's why I said very clearly, look, the issue is this: you cannot mitigate or stop any Nigerian constitutionally from moving from one region to the other. If we were two different countries, for instance, then you will know that the country.
What about those coming from other African countries?
If I may complete it,
okay.
It is the responsibility of the federal government to police our borders. And so if government fails in policing the border, and the people have already entered, and I give you a scenario, the United States of America, there are several millions of illegal migrants living in the US. You cannot, just, fly one day and begin to deport an individual that is resident in a particular country. You must go through what the law mandates. That's why America spends a lot of money to ensure that they mitigate the entry of non-Americans into their country. They are so sophisticated to the point where before you come, they've already done scenarios of whatever you can do. And so they have an advantage. We don't do that in Nigeria. Our borders are porous, particularly in the northern part of the country, which is bordered by the western part by Benin Republic, the northern part by Niger, and then our eastern part by Cameroon. The northern part of these three countries, or the southern part of Niger and the northern part of these two other countries, are largely home to people that have a migratory kind of culture. And so they keep moving. They don't understand that there's a border. Except
they don't see anybody.
Except in those places where there are government presence. And so until we are able to police that border effectively to the point where no non-Nigerian, once cattle is moved from Niger into Nigeria, do you ask a cattle what is your nationality? You have to ask the individual. So from the beginning, you must stop people from crossing that border. If you have failed at that point, those who cross the border, you know that they don't stay in the north. They cross the border into Nigeria and look towards
they come down south.
Because it's safer for them down, because we are not used to the culture of cattle herding. We don't have huge cattle that belongs to us. Over there, you can't graze your cattle in somebody's field. They know who the other person is, but we don't here. So once they come into Nigeria, they are shipping themselves down to
but should coming down south be at the detriment of farmers?
It shouldn't be, but what can we do? We are one Nigeria.
Okay, Dr. Abayomi.
Thank you. You want to say something?
Okay. Let me now. I thought you wanted to chip in something. Go ahead before I ask my next question.
Just like you said, Nigeria has porous borders. Our borders are porous to the extent that we have more than 1,400 illegal entry points.
Unmanned borders.
1,400. So people just troop in the way they like. But the only thing I differ a little bit with what you said is symbiotic relationship. The farmers and the cattle herders look like parallel lines. Because, for instance, if you just bring in your cattle into another person's farm and you have... They
leave the structure in their wake.
That's the thing. For instance, if you're monitoring this side, the cattle on this side, and the other side is consuming the crops of the gentleman, and at the end of the day, there will be clashes. I think we should look for a modern way of rearing our cattle.
Ranching?
Yes, ranching. That's the best way. But to say about it can never be.
Okay. My next question, Dr. Abayomi. The Naira, Nigeria's currency, seems to be losing its purchasing power.
Yes.
Because I think that in a way is also responsible for the continuous increase in prices of food items, especially the imported ones. Yes. Now, what is responsible for this? For this weakening of the Naira?
Okay. You see, the thing is, the finances of the government is not good enough.
Now,
for instance, recently, analysts said or alleged that the federal government or the CBN printed money.
The governor of Edo, they deny that.
You see, there's nothing wrong
in printing money. Yes.
But it's not something you use anyhow. When you print money, you must be strategic with it. You print money and you resuscitate dead firms, industries.
You can increase government spending to energize the economy, not to pay salaries.
Not to pay salaries. It doesn't make economic sense to just print money and pay salaries. But suppose, because we have a lot of firms that have closed down, we need to revive them. Because if you have too much money chasing figures, then there will be a big problem. Then, what you said, that because of devaluation, yes, because Nigeria is somehow import oriented. So then you import the inflation. For instance, if a pack of a food item, maybe let's say it's chocolate, goes for $1 and you bring it here, it used to be 380 or something.
Now it's over 400. Yes.
And those are the things. So we need to make sure that we rejig the economy.
Would that have to do with also, rejigging our own manufacturing sector?
Yes. That was why I said rejigging the economy. The manufacturing sector, many sectors, even the agricultural sector.
That means government can give out grant to resources some of this, ensure that some of these companies do not die.
Yes, and provide an enabling climate for businesses to thrive. Because government has no business in business, but must provide the enabling climate for both the agricultural sector and the industrial sector. For instance, if there's adequate security today, within the next few months, you will see food products coming out. You understand? But now when you go to the farm, you are not sure of returning. Then, because of multiple taxation and a host of other factors, farms are relocating. Those are the things. And unfortunately, the little exports that we do are raw materials. You export cocoa, raw cocoa, and then you want chocolate.
You export crude oil.
And then you petrol.
And you see the crude oil.
And when you export crude oil, there's gas, there's the gas component of it, there's the petrol component of it. So you're losing so many things.
Yes, and the crude oil thing is even more, it's crazier.
It's
crazier because it's not like a farmer. After owning your farm, tilling and everything, then you harvest your yam and not take it to another place. Please, I mean, cook it, pound it, and bring it. It doesn't make sense. No, that's a simple way people understand it. It doesn't make sense.
You can't get everything back.
It doesn't make sense. I'm so high under that to do round tripping, and that was why we had a lot of subsidies.
Yes, subsidies can.
People will take crude oil because of this swap deal. Take the crude oil out, refine them. Instead of paying, they won't pay. That's where we are. Corruption has been eating every facet of our national.
Okay, let me turn to Professor. Okay.
Just before then, I think just to add to that, I think the major problem is that there's so much pressure on
the naira,
the dollar.
Okay, on the dollar. Okay.
You see, because just as I said, a petition, and many Nigerians want to even get the dollars they don't need. And many people want dollar, they want to travel, or they want to. So because there's so much pressure, and remember the law of demand and supply.
Yes.
So definitely it has to go up and weaken the naira.
Just like Dr. Abayomi suggested, some people, you read economics, I'm not an economist. I think it's called macroeconomics, where at a time like this, government is expected to, increase spending, energize the economy, give out grants, so that industries will not die off. Why does it seem that the Nigerian government is not doing that path?
Yes. The problem is that, we have goals of economic policies, and the government should understand that some of these policies are conflicting. That's the problem. For example, we have just mentioned the issue of employment and inflation. So until government is able to adequately mix that policy of monetary policy and fiscal policy to the betterment of the society. You see, when you are taking one in isolation, then it will be difficult. Now, talking about spending, yes, it's not that government is not spending. The issue is that the spending is not going to the
right place, yes,
of the economy.
Oh, okay.
So most of our spendings are on consumption, and when you have consumption, that cannot grow the economy. So that's the major problem.
Okay. Recently, the National Economic Council set up a committee to look into why states continue to have their revenues go down, and that committee came up with some suggestions written. One of those recommendations is that subsidy be removed and that petrol should be sold at 385 naira per liter, because El-Rufai, one of the members of that committee, claims that government spends between 70 billion and 210 billion naira monthly to subsidize petrol at 162 naira per liter, and that if petrol sells at 385 naira per liter, there will be a gain of 1.3 trillion, between 1.3 trillion to 2.3 trillion per annum. No doubt, just as Dr. Abayomi mentioned, that when there is an increase in the price of petrol, it drives up prices of food items, because some of these things you have to move them. Now, in a country where most people live on less than $2 a day, and then you're thinking about removing subsidy that there are a lot of conflict, a lot of controversies about subsidy. Sometimes they say there's subsidy, sometimes they say there is no subsidy. Now, should this be done, certainly there will be, we'll record further increase in the prices of items. Is this the way to go at this time? What thinking? Oh, let me put this way. What thinking do you think is driving that recommendation?
Yeah, that to me is the thinking is to a narrow extent that does not recognize the living standard of Nigerians. Because as at now, one of the reasons, just as we have discussed, one of the causes of inflation is the cost push inflation. The cost of product, especially the recent increase in petroleum products. So if you're not talking of 300 plus, then it means that the government is not sensitive to the plight of Nigerians. And I can tell you,
and wages are not going up. Government is even thinking of they call it a review. They call it review of salaries. And in some state, for instance, in Ekiti State, a few weeks ago, it was mentioned that suggested that minimum wage be suspended. So if wages are not going up, and then you're increasing the price of petrol.
So to me, I think government should own up when they have made mistakes. Maybe mistake of pronouncement or mistakes of action. To me, it's a great mistake thinking of increasing the price.
But if what El-Rufai said is anything to go by, where government has to spend between 70 billion to 70 billion and 210 billion as subsidy on a monthly basis, that certainly is not sustainable. What suggestions would you offer government?
I think the problem is that government left what they should have done undone, and that's the cost. Because when you abandon what you're supposed to do, the cost will be higher than the past. So to me, government doesn't have to look that way. What government can do is to find a way of increasing production in the economy, and also find a way of blocking the loopholes. I mean, the wastages in the economy. So if government can do that, subsidy or no subsidy, that is not going to be what we need at this particular time.
Is that okay? You want to say something?
Yes, it's a bit complex, and there are three things that are very important that I'd like to talk about. Okay. Number one is the issue of subsidy. A simple analogy was given by the doctor. You produce and then you export for somebody to have the input. Oil is largely in the Niger Delta region and in some part of the east. It's the politics of the management of Nigeria that we are paying for when we pay for subsidy. It's the politics of the management of the country. The oil is in the Niger Delta, but we have to pump it to Kaduna to refine. The oil is in the Niger Delta. The licenses for that oil belongs to somebody that is not in any way related to it. There are men in that region that are illegally refining crude into its component products and selling. Now, what would be expected to be commonsensical is that if we have local technology of any kind, no matter how crude, maybe at 30% capacity, that is able to provide XYZ percentage of our local consumption, government can then look into that sector.
I think government is already encouraging that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, especially with the modular refinery.
Now, I'll go back to where the issue is. When you are issuing licenses for modular refineries, who gets those licenses? The illegal man in the jungle? No. You still give those licenses to one businessman in Kano, one businessman in Enugu that has no relationship with that place. And it cannot work because you are looking at a theoretical solution to it. People are refining there. Let us look at liberalizing that sector and then putting certain legal requirements for them to be able to, instead of being illegal, you can then approach a bank, increase your production. Let us do what we are supposed to do. The bulk of what we are paying the US, India and China to refine for us, we can, if we take just 1% out every year, in 10 years we would have been able to take 10% out. Now, that's why I said the politics. Number two, the country is not rich. Look, there's a politics about Nigeria that will make it impossible for it to succeed. The bulk of monies that are being looted by Nigerians are not saved in Nigeria. When you say people are buying dollar, that is the safest thing for anybody to do. Because any economy that does not look at Nigeria first, where Nigeria first against everybody else, you are not going to be able to protect that economy. Somebody steals $100 million in Nigeria, saves it in Switzerland. Any commonsensical government, what they will begin to do is, how do we help them? It's not repatriation or we seize this money. As you are seizing one, every other person that you are not seeing is moving his funds, is reallocating his funds so that it cannot be traced. Let us encourage Nigerians to feel safer. Look, what is just? What will be just to Nigerians is that, look, my Oga, you have stolen money. Let us put some level of amnesty. Let people bring that money that is in the UK government. I don't want you to punish him anymore. Let him bring the money and spend it in Nigeria and create jobs. Because at the end of the day, look, morally people may say that why do you need that? Britain, the foreigners are far more intelligent than us. What they do is this. You can loot your country. They allow you safety in their country. The money that you are stealing from your people, they allow you to keep it. Abacha kept all the money he kept in Switzerland and the rest of them. They are returning the money back to us as capital. Do you know what $100 million will do in 19 years in an economy that is well managed? Are they returning it with everything it has made and giving as an advantage to them? Let us let the money come back. A lot of Nigerians, even me, as I'm speaking to you, I feel safer. If I have 100 million naira, I'll use it to buy dollar. Because, you know, I'm telling you what will be true to me. I'm not talking about whether the country will work. I'm telling you about the first law, which is the law of survival. Because you know that the dollar will keep stable. But for every dollar you need now, you need 500 naira. In the next 10 years, what if you will need 1,000 naira? Which means that if you have 1,000 naira now, the value will keep going down. So that's why there's a lot of pressure on the dollar, because people want to be safe. If we can make people feel that their money will be safe in Nigeria, you would encourage foreign direct investment. I'm not an economist. You would also encourage repatriation of those funds that the United Kingdom, Britain, and US are keeping for us. We need to have that money here, creating jobs.
Sorry, let me just add.
Yeah, Professor. I'll come back to you. But Professor, go ahead.
To differentiate between money genuinely earned and money stolen.
That's morals. That is morals. I'm not talking morals.
I think them amnesty for money stolen. I don't think it's.
How do you, sir, Professor, sir? Yeah. I ask a question. Yes. Somebody has stolen money for the past 20, 30 years. Yeah. The money is in UK. Yeah. That man that has stolen money in Nigeria has not been jailed. Yeah. He's able to go to the UK. He's able to use his money anywhere. Does it benefit you and I that he stole the money from?
The approach of bringing the money back that is lacking.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
For me, I will have talked to those people.
Bring the money. Still provide amnesty.
No, notwithstanding, they still have to be punished.
You see, the punishment.
The only thing is that I forgot how to call it.
It's losing the money, not enough punishment.
It's even worse punishment.
Losing the money.
It's not enough. It's not enough. You see, they can be bargaining. I will play bargaining.
Play bargaining.
On it
was done at some point in Nigeria. I think during Obasanjo time, bargaining was done.
Also still brings amnesty from prosecution. The advantage is this. Look, there was a time in this country where there's a particular soft drink that was being imported. When Baba Obasanjo was there, he decided to ban the importation of those things. That I don't want to mention his name. It's produced locally by NBC, the bottling company here, which means that we have been able to provide that same value to our people without putting pressure on the dollar. There are Nigerians. The most expensive street in England, it is on that street that you have Okotiebo's house. You have a lot of Nigerians owning houses there. Do you know why they repatriate their money abroad? They are safer in those countries. The United Kingdom knows that most of these monies are illegally acquired. The gold that is being the blood diamonds of Congo Zaire, where was the benefit taken to? To the Congo Zaire people or to England? We know that, look, colonialism has continued even after independence. And one of the ways they colonize us is to encourage our people to come over there and spend their money. Tell them at the American embassy that you have $1 million in your account, you are going to the US. They will give you your visa.
Okay, because of our time. It's part of the reopening of the borders. Just like, as you mentioned, Dr. Abayomi, there are still some certain restrictions on imports. Would you advise the government should remove these restrictions?
Thank you. Please, if you permit me, I would like to comment briefly on the dollarization of the economy.
Let's do it.
Because you see, the thing is that, just like it's been said, change should begin with you and I.
Yes.
If you say you feel safe by converting your naira to dollar, then you are putting additional pressure on the dollar, and that will make. If you do that, you do that, I do that, Prof does that, everybody does that. Then by next week, it will now be 600 naira to a dollar.
Yes.
Now we are not. Excuse me. But let me tell you one thing: the mistake we are making, the so-called US, is the godfather of debtors. Yes. US is owing
more than any other country.
More than 100% of its GDP.
Yes.
What are we talking about?
Yes.
So, but the dollar is still relatively stable. You get my point?
Yes.
Why? Because you and I are saying we should be converting our money to dollar.
Zadok, let him out.
No, I'm actually enjoying.
You see, it's not the best. It's not the best at all. Whatever it takes, because in terms of indebtedness, Nigeria is just owing a minuscule compared to US. So we should not be compounding a problem by dollarizing the economy. That's one. Then you mentioned the issue of amnesty. The way I would just look at it is the amnesty can just be a little window. Yes. Amnesty window to say, okay, if you are owing, if you are stolen, we are working on this. We have investigated. We have your list. We have stolen. We are giving you so much to repatriate your money in full and do this or return. Maybe they return to the coffers of the government. Then you will be left up the hook. But afterwards, there should be stiffer penalty. That's for anybody that steals.
Afterwards.
Afterwards. Because in China, that's why China is growing rapidly.
Even in Singapore.
The minister was said in those days.
Yes.
He was getting free ticket just to travel holiday. He went and came back and was jailed.
Yes.
But here, people collect billions in dollars and we say we will be celebrating
for conferences that they will not even go to, and they will not attend.
At the end of the day, we'll give them chief titles.
Yes, I would explain.
Baba even in churches.
It can't but be like that because we live in a society where what is available is less than what is demanded. And so, one of the first laws of nature is survival. Everybody is responsible first to himself before he's responsible to every other person. What the US has done, because the doctor mentioned the US has grown its economy to a point, not just internally. In terms of infrastructure, technology, the US does not have to solely depend on a foreign nation. So it can afford to keep borrowing because the future of its investment locally. In terms of technology, look, one US company, Apple, has a total capitalization of $1 trillion. That's one company. 1 trillion. That's one company. It's not the government. What they've done is that they've grown so much capacity inside that what they are borrowing on, they know that they have the capacity. They are not even going to pay you. But in terms of trade agreements and things like that, they could always have an advantage. But we don't have that locally. And so, if you are saying, sir, I have a child that wants to go to the university. A lot of our children are studying abroad. Why are they studying abroad? Everybody is looking for survival. And so there would always be pressure on the dollar, sir.
Okay, because of our time, or maybe you have time to do that.
Yeah.
Professor, how can government ensure price stability?
Thank you very much. I think it's not going to be difficult. What government has to do is to be sincere with policies. Because most of the time, our policies are not consistent. Our policies are not done, properly formulated. So that caused a lot of problems for the economy. So for government, just as I said, there's need for government to look at the monetary policies and to look at the fiscal policy and see a mix of both fiscal and monetary policy. In other words, government has to address the issues at stake. For example, we're talking of inflation. So we have mentioned some of the reasons, especially talking about government policy itself. So government has to have a deliberate way of addressing the issues at hand. For example, when a policy is coming into being, government has to carefully evaluate what the impact will be. For example, we talk about this import restriction. At the time there was restriction on rice, government did not plan for what will happen thereafter. So, and that is the effect we are seeing now. So, if government can have policy that address the issue of the economy, policy that address the issues concerning the common man, then there will be a relief, and more importantly, sincerity of purpose. Most of the pronouncement, I must quickly say, most of the pronouncement by government are not sincere. Pronouncements, government talking about entrepreneurship without backing it up. Government talking about money. We have a lot of money in central bank. We have a lot of money in Bank of Industry. How many people are accessing this money? So yes, government will say the people are not meeting the requirement. Yes, if that is the case, what is government doing to facilitate the number of people meeting the requirement? If we were to lessen down reduce the strictness of the policy, then we should do that to encourage more people to come. So government, as I said, the summary is that government must be sincere, government must be commitment to addressing the challenges of the economy. If we do that, then issue of...
talking about rice import, will it be out of place to even encourage some of the countries from where we import our rice to grow their rice if there's security? Will it be out of place?
Yeah, if there's security. Because even those of us here, we are afraid to go to the farm. You are asking those people to come. So if there is security, and that is one area that government must work quickly. Government must work quickly on that area to ensure that there is security, and farmers must be safe on their farm, and then they must also earn a high level of profit, because they also have to educate their children. They also have to do other things that we are doing. So farmers must be safe, and then the farms must be productive and profitable for the farmers.
Dr. Abayomi, what do you think government should do to ensure price stability?
Thank you very much. In addition to security, there should be effective food reserve management. It must be more effective. Then there must be strong strategic economic management. For instance, when there's flooding here and there, the disaster, the NEMA, National Emergency Management Agency, will just give them relief material, and that's all. We should analyze what's the implication of what has happened, so that we go and mitigate it before it happens. For instance, when hundreds of farmlands were washed away last year, they just gave them relief materials. We should have known that there's going to be a backlash of that, but we didn't do anything. Then there must be strong political will in our policies. Most of the times we just pay lip service to what we say. On paper, Nigeria has one of the best policies on paper, but implementation is zero or even negative. That's where our problems are. There was a time, because of mistrust, or just because government felt, because experts here are Nigerians, they went to, what's the name of this country, Malaysia, to bring experts to advise them here. We are here. They've advised the government and they've gone. What have we achieved?
And we're sourcing out our infrastructure.
Those people have not said anything new. Yet, what have we achieved? That's the problem. You see, and let me tell you, a lot of people, when they get to power, they play politics with the lives of their people, and they forgetting that they will live. And that's why I give kudos to this state government on this Amateku thing. They are doing a yeoman's job.
No, state government.
Yes, doing a yeoman's job. While a few are playing politics with the lives of their people. You see, the thing is, whether we like it or not, the law of karma will take effect. If you are in power and you treat your followers or your people very well and you protect them, you will live. If you don't treat them well, you will live, and everything will bounce back. So that's the thing.
Is that again final words?
Yes, I think that it's important, and I give you a personal experience. I'm a fish farmer. prices of fish feed have gone up from as little as 4,050 naira to 7,850 at the moment, and ditto for chicken feed and the rest of it. Now, with the increased cost of production, you expect that there will be commensurate increases in prices. You can't do that because the people can't buy. What is in the hands
So the
of
business
people
is dying.
The business is really strained, and it becomes very important for government to come in at this time to finance, maybe short-time financing, things that can take the burden. Because if fish farmers, for instance, begin to drop from that market, automatically there will be less supply, which will drive up costs. Right. And if we have higher costs, government will not be fulfilling its obligation of providing an enabling environment for citizens to thrive. I think it is important for government to make use of the academia a lot, the local academia. Nigerians probably
do they believe in the local academia?
Nigeria,
from what you've seen so far.
See, they do, but the thing is that
we source out our technology and infrastructure. We bring people to build our railways, to do everything for us.
I keep
we
saying,
source our technology.
I reiterate it now.
You just mentioned the US, for instance. You and I were talking 2 weeks ago when we were talking about the body cap used in the US by police officers.
Yes. Look, if you look at every developed nation, one of the things they thrive on is education. Whatever product we are seeing or strength we are seeing in the developed nations now is because at a point in their time they took up the decision to prioritize education for the future of their people. Everything you see, every technology that is inside the studio was created from the human brain. So if we don't have a proper financing or encouragement of that sector, you are not going to develop the future. And Nigeria, I said earlier that one company, Apple, is already capitalized over $1 trillion. It is richer than Nigeria in terms of what it has. So we need to wake up to see that education is the priority.
Thank you very much, Zadok. Professor Obamuyi, any final thing?
Thank you very much. Just like Dr. Abayomi said, I want to appreciate the governor of Ondo State, especially talking about this Amotekun and this insecurity, this southern governors, this thing. Mr. Zadok mentioned about farmers' movement. You say I'm talking about constitution. I'm not a lawyer, but the right to move from one place to the other does not mean that you have right.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Your right ends where mine begins.
So that's why I want to.
Your right should not.
That's why I want to commend also the governor of the state, especially as far as the protecting the farmers and ensure there's food security in the state. So and that will help us to reduce the level of inflation. And if you look at the inflation in Nigeria, you see that Ondo State is not one of the states that with higher inflation rate.
Okay, I'm afraid we have to go. Professor Tomola Obamuyi, Director of Food Advancement Center, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Dr. Adesina Abayomi, Head of Department, Economics Department, Federal University of Technology, Accra, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you,
and Mr. Zadok Akintoye, Entrepreneur and Public Analyst, thank you very much for coming.
It's a pleasure being here.
My name is Dwayne Danis, and this is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of the Roundtable. Thank you for listening.